Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the show. You are listening to Game Club from Wannabe Critic Productions. I am Gabriel Fast, and I will forever be your host because I am the Wannabe Critic. Today, I am joined by two parts of Busch League Gaming for yet another Supergiant Games review. We are continuing the Supergiant saga, which next in line is Transistor. So before we get into our review, though, Jacob, Busch, and Ryan Scalf. Let me do again another Busch League intro for you. So my first guest bought a Ouya, and that is Jacob Busch.
That's a great one. That is So your last, you did another one of these intros before. I don't remember. It was something with Jimmy Fallon.
Yeah.
The Ouya one though, you could have sent that in to me. I would have used that for our intros.
Yeah.
That's like on par with the Ouya.
I'm not familiar with the Ouya.
You're not.
What's the Ouya?
It's like this. Wasn't it like an Android platform? It was this
yeah.
very cheap, like small little console.
Oh, it was like a Zune?
It was
like the MP3 version.
Yeah.
It was like
It's
the
the
Zune of
equivalent.
gaming consoles, basically.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
a great one, Gabe. That's a really good intro. I
Yeah.
appreciate
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Yeah, I have an Ouya. I love it.
Yeah, there you have it. My second guest has gone from being the most reasonable one to the non-reasonable one. That is Ryan Scalf.
I have to ask, what hot take of mine offended you to make you think that I'm no longer reasonable?
I want to know. All
It
of them?
was-
every take
yeah.
you ever had.
I'm
And
actually
also-
surprised you thought I was reasonable in the first place.
I actually threw my phone whenever you tried to argue with the rest of the crew and say that there was an X2 and a Y2. Because I was like, no, there's not!
Yeah. Oh, you did call me out on that.
I appreciate that.
I missed all the X's and all the Y's
Yeah.
and all the black and whites
and the sun
and
and the
sun
moon.
and moon.
Dude,
I dropped off
look,
after that.
the last really good Pokemon game was Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum, period.
Oh my gosh, Platinum was amazing.
So good.
Yeah, and I was super into Diamond and Pearl, which he never played.
Still haven't played.
So I'm excited for him
Looking
to
forward
play
to
this
it.
remake.
Gosh, man, that was whenever I realized I was starting to get old. Whenever like Black and White and Black 2 and White 2 were coming out, and I realized like this ain't it, Chief. But these kids love this. Like, what am I missing out? And then I'm like, no, I'm just getting old. That's what the problem is. So there you have
We're
it.
old.
Yep.
We're getting old.
Yeah,
Yep.
but yet you're friends with me somehow. So, gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me. It's with regrets that we have to say that Necrophilia will not be
Wow.
will not be
That's
showing
a great
up.
name.
Good callback.
God rest his
Necrophilia.
God rest his soul. He wasn't
The Crip
able.
Boy.
The Crip Boy himself was
I listened
unable
back
to
to that
make
episode.
it.
So for the listener, you have access to this probably now. Bastion's out, and in that episode, we drag Nick's name through the mud and call him a
Who
necrophiliac.
came up with Necrophilia?
I think Gabe came up with necrophiliac.
Yeah, that was me.
I think
That's great.
I initially called him a necrophiliac.
Yeah.
Because the crypt thing.
He's kind of into that.
Yeah.
We're really just,
He's dark.
poor Nick.
He's a dark man.
Poor
Oh my
Nick.
God. Well, and it was one of those things too. We had lost connection. Like my freaking internet, right, was so bad that other night. Or that night. I've since upgraded a little bit to a new router, and they came out and fixed some stuff. I'm holding out for that sweet Starlink though. Hopefully that'll be coming in soon. But it was funny because we kept on bringing up the necrophilia every time it would go out. So it was like a solid minute and a half of us just asking Nick so Nick, are you into that? And he was like, no, I'm not. And then my internet would go out again. I'd be like, so Nick, you're not into that, are you? And he's like, no,
Yeah.
no, definitely not. I could,
And-
it was funny.
And I try to tell people the show's not scripted. It's pretty scripted.
Yeah.
Just let's retell that joke
Again. Yes, exactly. Well, no, that's actually Ryan's department, right? Because Ryan's the one who actually writes the shows.
Oh, the script writer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I write all the shows.
Yeah.
So
So how are we doing?
if you think I'm unreasonable, it's all play. The only reason they're reasonable is because I give them those opinions to offer to you.
Yeah. How am I doing this time?
You're a little off, but
Okay. I'll
it's okay.
I'll shape up.
we'll
I'll drink a little more. I'll drink a little more whiskey here. By the
Don't
way,
go rogue on me.
I won't go rogue. Don't worry. You probably can't see it, but on my glass it says it just says, yeah, you definitely can't see it, but it says it says I drink and I know things. So that's what I do.
Nice.
That's from Game of Thrones.
You are right. You would be correct. So there you have it.
How did you know
That's
that?
what I do. I drink.
Tyrion.
I drink and
Tyrion
I know.
Lannister.
I drink and I know things. That's right.
Okay, I have to say, I'm sorry I'm about to derail all this, but I have this unique ability to where every time I watch a show or a movie, it might as well be the first time I ever watch that show or a movie because I retain no knowledge of
Really?
any line, any plot point. It doesn't make
That's
sense.
Yet
to me.
you
So
review
in-
video games.
I take really good notes.
He reads IGN's review right before recording.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
all it is.
yeah.
No, that's good. That is good. I feel bad for you though.
No, I enjoy it because every time I watch a Star Wars movie, I'm like, I had no idea that
He's
was
his father? What?
Ew.
Wait, who's the guy with the mask?
Ew. She's his sister. Oh God, no. But
Still
But I
don't-
didn't know
still
that
don't
when they
accept
first
that.
kissed.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
not their
yeah.
fault,
It is
right?
not. Yeah, they didn't know. They didn't know. What are we drinking
didn't
tonight,
know.
though, gentlemen? We were alluding to that a moment ago before Ryan.
Carbonated water with alcohol.
Seltzers. We're seltzer boys.
White
today.
Claw.
So I'm a
White
huge
Claw.
seltzer fan, and I'm trying to get off, or just greatly reduce my soda intake. Diet soda, even zero sugar soda. Not diet, but like zero sugar brands. Even I'm not going off of it completely, but I'm trying to just wean myself because it's not good for you, right?
Right.
There has since been you might have seen it. Do you guys drink regular seltzers or do you drink regular sparkling water or do you just do
Yeah,
White
Yeah,
Claw?
I do
Yeah.
Spindrift. I do
Spindrift.
Spindrift.
Okay. So I've turned into a Liquid Death fan. Liquid
I've
Death.
seen this on the internet.
Yeah, there's nothing special about it. It has cool branding. It's about $1.20 per can. But it's good. It's mountain water.
It sounds bad.
Yeah, no, but it murders your thirst, right? So Liquid Death murders your thirst. It has some of the most unique branding I've ever seen, but it's really good. It's mountain water. If you like Fiji water, I think it's akin to that in my opinion. But
So it's just straight up water in the can.
water in the can, but this is the sparkling water. The black can's the sparkling.
It feels like they're compensating for being carbonated water, right? When you're leading with that like metal,
Trying to unsoften.
yeah, like this isn't European water. This is liquid metal.
What does
Like,
that say about consumers? Is that we're so threatened by seltzer water that we need to be black metal,
Yeah.
liquid death.
Yeah, so I have Liquid Death, and then my other seltzer of choice these days, I'll show you, or my sparkling water of choice. Can you guys hear my dogs barking?
Just one bark. I heard
Okay,
one.
yeah, I hope
Just
it's
one.
not too loud. I'll have to
bark.
Yeah, I'll have to yell at my wife to get them to shut up. So, anyways,
Just bring them on. Bring them on. Let's
Bring
see
him
those
on.
dogs.
What's
Let's
he
see
got
those
to
dogs.
say?
yeah,
He's obviously got an opinion.
the dogs are barking. So not only do I have Liquid Death, but I also have my other seltzer of choice, which is Ugly.
What?
Yeah, Ugly.
I've never heard of this either. I've never heard of this.
Dude, so this is Dr. Ugly. It's supposed to taste like Dr. Pepper. And the crazy thing is it kind of does.
So it has a flavor.
It's
It's
supposed
not
to
just
taste
like
yeah,
like
water.
Dr.
so
Pepper?
it's supposed to be like a... So here's the thing. Whenever you like go off of soda for a while and you come back to it, you're like repulsed. You're like, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of been transitioning to these flavored seltzers, these soda flavored seltzers because I want to get off soda, so I need to find some sort of alternative. So there's like a Mountain Dew one, there's like a Fruit Punch one, there's a Dr. Pepper one, and the more I drink them, the more I'm like, yeah, like I don't really miss soda that much. So there you have it. That's our Seltzer Bros segment for this episode.
I have one thing to say. We've jumped the shark when it comes to seltzers at this point. With what I've seen today, it's official. We're in
too
some
many.
weird territories for
Yeah.
seltzers.
Yeah, it's too many.
Yeah, we
Once
are.
Saturated.
Once Costco has their own seltzer, we're behind the trend now.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
bet.
but their seltzers are pretty
They're
good.
pretty
The good
good.
one,
Yeah.
it's like $12 for what, like
100?
36. Yeah.
I wish I had a Costco close, but yeah. Anyways,
Oh.
Ugly and Liquid Death, you got to try it. And I am drinking. You guys are drinking. You're both drinking White Claw. I am also drinking Woodford Double Oaked this evening.
You've been drinking that on the other podcast too. I remember
Double
you
oak.
referenced it.
It
didn't
looks
you?
double
Yeah.
oak.
It-
It's a very dark.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. I like it. I think it might be a little overrated, but it is good. So
Take a sip of it for me. I want
What
to
are
see
the
I want to
notes?
see this. I want to see this.
Oh, there we go.
Okay.
Yeah, it's good.
All right, yeah.
It's nice and smooth.
I
It's
read
about-
his face.
Yeah, it's about
liked
$50
it.
a bottle, so you can get some of that.
Flex.
All right,
Nice.
that's enough of that. Yeah, I have so much money. So tonight,
You know how
ladies,
much
and
that drink you're drinking is worth?
you're freaking.
This White
You
Claw
guys are
cost
drinking
me
White Claws over
$1.39.
there. You guys are you're poor boys over there. No, I'm just kidding. So tonight we are reviewing Transistor. If you paid attention to our last review, here's the thing: if you're a fan of Game Club, which we just surpassed like 1,200 downloads, I think, on Game Club.
Nice.
Which is really
Nice.
special for me. We don't promote this show at all, hardly ever. So that's just organic, most of the time. And obviously, you all share your episodes and stuff. Or every once in a while, I'll see one of you retweet an episode if I send something out, but that may just be general support in general. But either way, I really appreciate it, and we're super thankful to have all the listeners. And if you want us to review a certain game, let us know. We'll make it happen. But tonight,
Yep.
we are continuing the Supergiant saga, as I mentioned before, with Transistor. So I'm going to read just a brief overview from Wikipedia. This is like if you Google Transistor game, it comes up on the right, obviously. 95% of Google users like this game. It has an 86% on Metacritic. It has a 4.4 out of 5 on the App Store. And it's worth noting that this game came out in 2014. So not that we use any of those, scores as a compass in any way. This is just what the professionals, quote unquote, are saying. This is Wannabe Critic Productions, right? So this is what the description says. It says, Transistor is an action role-playing video game developed and published by Supergiant Games. The game was released in May 2014 for Microsoft Windows and PlayStation 4, and for OS X and Linux in October 2014, and iOS devices in June 2015. Transistor sold over 1 million copies. Transistor sold over 1 million copies across all platforms by December 2015. Now, 1 million copies. That's in 2015. That's a lot for an indie game.
I honestly, and I know I do a gaming show, I have no reference point for what that means. I know a million's a lot, right? I just multiply that by price, and then I'm like, that's a lot of money.
Sure, but
Is that good compared? Like, what's that compared to?
so okay. Think about it this way: how would you compare Final Fantasy to how much bigger do you think Final Fantasy is than Supergiant? Supergiant in its entirety.
A lot bigger, not fairly though. I like Supergiant far more.
I don't know why Final Fantasy is that big, but they're pretty big.
You
So-
picked the one franchise that we do not like.
So, and I think these numbers are pretty close. So think of Final Fantasy. Final Fantasy sold 7 million copies in like a weekend. Like Final Fantasy VII Remake sold 7 million copies its first weekend. Now, that's a mega hit. That may not be a great point of reference, but for an indie game that still not a lot of people really know about,
Yeah.
a year later after, when did Bastion come out? 2013, right?
Yeah, I'm actually shocked. 1 million does seem like a lot for this game because I honestly didn't even know who Supergiant was until they came out with
Hades.
Yeah, exactly, right? And they had another game after that. So Pyre came after Transistor. So for me, so Bastion came out in 2011. This is a few years later, which is, that's a healthy development time, right? And to go such a different direction with their game, people that had heard, there are a few million people that probably had heard about Bastion by this point. And Transistor comes out with a completely different direction, and the only accolades that this game has attached to it is, that's the developer that did Bastion, Supergiant.
Yeah.
That's all they have to their name at this point, right? So the fact that it was able to sell 1 million by 2015 is actually pretty impressive, considered the audience, if you think about it. Obviously, it definitely did well on Xbox because, it did well on Xbox. It did well across all platforms, but obviously, I think Steam and Xbox were kind of the thing that was propelling that game into success by that time, just because of the success that the previous game had seen. I don't think Bastion came to PlayStation for a while, so. But anyways, composer is Darren Korb. Developers are Supergiant and Confetti Inc. Designers Greg Kasavin, Amir Rao. Publishers Supergiant Games and Limited Run Games. It was nominated for Best Indie Game in 2014, and as well as it was nominated for Best Indie Game in 2014, Best Score in Music, and was nominated for a BAFTA in 2015 for Performer. So,
wow,
there you have
Good
it.
for them.
Because this one's from what I can tell, usually the underrated one that people talk about. Like it's like, oh, you have to play Transistor. It wasn't as popular.
Well, and
2014.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
2014 was a time when I didn't play much. Like this was like I was graduating college, moving, and I just missed it completely. Like when we brought this up, I was like, oh, I didn't really know this one existed.
Yeah.
So I'm glad it got praised at the time because early spoiler, it deserved it.
I am very I'm super picky with my indie games in general.
You are.
Especially back then.
Too picky.
Whoa. I love indie games. You can attest to
Yep.
I'm a big indie game guy, but I'm pretty quick to write something off. And this is a game that I may have actually seen and just written it off because it's not a style of game that I ever would have played.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm glad, Gabe, you had this idea to do Supergiant Games. I'm glad you've kind of made me do that because this is a whole genre that I feel like I was missing out on. And Transistor is a super good representation from what I've seen. I actually enjoyed this. Obviously, we talked in Bastion. I played like 2 hours of Bastion. I enjoyed this. The first 2 hours of this game I enjoyed a lot more than my first 2 hours of Bastion.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
So that's interesting to me. Obviously, we're gonna have a lot to say. So I'm assuming we all like this game, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna text my wife really quick to tell them to shut up to my stinking dogs. Can you guys hear those dogs?
Yeah, but they
Barely.
sound so cute.
Yeah,
they sound so cute.
It's
So cute.
heartwarming.
Yeah, bring them in there.
It makes you seem more human. You
Yeah,
know?
they've been in here all day.
It's relatable.
They've been napping all day while I've been in here making stuff, and they probably don't want to be in here now that my wife's home. But anyways, so Transistor is one of those things. Obviously, I touted myself as being a super big Supergiant fan, right? Whenever we first did Bastion, and I let you guys know that I was a big fan, and only that I had played Bastion like 12 times or something like that. And I had flirted with this game for years, basically since it came out. I bought it day one when it came out, and I could never finish it for the simple reason that, and I like this game, the combat does not speak to me at all.
Ooh, yeah.
So
it either hits or it doesn't, right?
Yeah, and that is one of those things where I have to ask myself the question, like, is Supergiant so ahead of their time that literally we have not seen, I can't recall a game ever that uses combat like this.
No.
Not
that I've ever played.
Busch League Gaming just released a review of a game.
I
that
listened
has
to
combat
it.
very similar to this.
Yeah, I did listen to that. Yeah,
it's third person though, so it's not the same, but it's very similar. Like this. So here, actually, let's compare it to something that has existed in the past. Fallout, VATS. VATS is a time freeze mode where you can make quick decisions. Usually, it's just a shot, so it's not as it's not as drawn out and detailed as this, but what this is it's a hybrid of turn-based somewhat, right? Where you kind of have this pause state where you can sit here and select moves. So, yeah, we haven't really seen anything and not much since, right? I mean, it is pretty unique.
There was
this game that we just reviewed.
Yeah, I mean, there was like a Tales game, I think, Tales of something where you only had a certain amount of time. Yeah, something like that, where you kind of only had a certain amount of time to make your move, right? And so but still, that's a JRPG. This is not a JRPG. Like,
yeah.
So I don't know. Like, are we good to focus on the combat for a minute? Are you guys good to start there? So
That's where I want to start. Yes.
Yeah. So let's talk about that, because obviously how long did it take you guys to beat this? It took me like 5 hours in total.
Yeah, just around 5, 6.
Yeah, maybe 6 or 7 or 8.
I'm like 12, but
like 15. I'm bad at
We'll round down to 6.
Yeah,
it's low. It's the low single digits,
which is nice because that's kind of how. It's kind of how Bastion was, but a completely different play style, obviously. Mm-hmm. But if you want to draw this game out to be 7-8 hours long, you probably could. There's a lot of nuggets of, like not Easter eggs, but there's a lot of explorable lore, in the world, and we'll get to that in a minute. But as far as combat goes, this is the polar opposite of Bastion, and that Bastion is a super fast, like almost hack and slash type situation. You have some ranged combat as well. It is an inferior version of Hades. Spoiler alert: I have been playing a lot of Hades. Not ready to talk about it yet. Not ready to talk about it yet.
Can't wait.
So it is a lot like that, or Hades is a lot like that. But this is completely different. We have this like time management, tactical, cyberpunk like. And really their first flirtation with kind of using upgrades, right? And like kind of using different mods to your weapons and stuff like that, which we had seen a little bit of that in Bastion, but not to this extent. I remember watching the No Clip documentary, and I think one of the developers, Amir Rao, had said something like, most players only use like the first 30 combinations, because this game is meant to be replayed, just like Hades is. But most players would only get to like the first 15 or 20 like combinations. So how you could take an ability and sock it as the main socket, or you could use it as an attribute to the main socket.
Yep.
He's like, there's thousands of combinations, but most people only get to the first 20 or so combinations, and there's some wacky stuff that you can do. So I wanted to throw it to you guys. What was your experience kind of, and feel free to just kind of talk across the table, and I'll insert myself right where I want to, but what was kind of your experience with the combat of this game?
So the gameplay, the combat to me was by far the greatest thing about this game.
Ooh.
By far.
I like that.
What?
I like that.
Here's what makes me so mad about so many other games. What's a good example? Any like shooter looter, even Horizon Zero Dawn kind of did this, where you have like these weapons, and when you do an upgrade, you're doing like tons of tiny upgrades. Like there's all those games where you can like meld weapons together and you get like 4% increase on accuracy, 2% increase on damage, 1% increase on luck or something silly.
Incremental.
These tiny increments. And that has always bothered me. And almost every game that does stacking does that. I don't understand it, because it's almost like the increments are so small that you don't actually feel like you're getting better. Like obviously the enemies you're defeating are, higher health points, but it doesn't feel any different than the lower health point battles, because you didn't feel that improvement. What I loved about this game is like every time you stack something, it was this drastic function change to the weapon, right? So there's one weapon, I guess we should just say that one weapon, there's a sword, and everything you unlock is just a function of that sword. So all these different abilities that you can stack, like you said, you have a primary and then 2 secondary slots. They were, hearing the developer talk about there's thousands of combinations. Not only are there thousands of combinations, but there's thousands of combinations that all feel different. And I know there's overlap, sure, right? Like there are subtleties in 1,000 different combinations, but I was like blown away by how well fleshed out the stacking was, because I was like, oh, that, like I'm almost there, right? I had like this weapon loadout, and I'm like, I'm almost there. I kind of like this, but I think if I add this, it'll feel different. And it did. Like there was so much adjustment you can make. And it wasn't like drawn out, they didn't waste my time with it. Like up front, you're unlocking all these functions and you get to play with them right away. I just thought it was, that to me was the best thing this game had going for it. Everything else, which we'll get to, was like pretty good. But I was really impressed by the stacking, because there's no other game that's doing it like that.
Yeah, the there's impact to your changes. There's impact to your upgrades.
Yeah.
Because I also get sick of the 2% buff here and 2% buff, whatever that is.
I hate that.
Yeah, and this one, it's a visual change. It's a gameplay change. You see these effects right there in front of you, and this weird combination that you didn't think would do anything, and it does. So, Gabe, controversial here too. I also agree that the combat was fantastic in this game. And the problem is we won't see this type of combat often because it's not popular. It's siloed. It's not to the masses. And it bums me out because I do wish there were more games that explored this hybrid of, turn-based / not turn-based, but it's action dodgy, but it's not like this doesn't exist much in mainstream gaming.
Yeah. This is what I'll say, I guess, about what Supergiant did with this game is how many times you play a game and you're like, oh, well, I would have done it this way. Supergiant is like those gamers that have played all these other games and are like, they're also pissed that they get these 2% increments, and they're also pissed that they get the same item 10 times, and then if they add them all together, they get like a little bit stronger of the same exact item.
I'm going to stop you there. Hades does do some of this tiny buffs, right, Gabe? You've played a little bit now. There is some of that which bums me out because it's a slow progression, right? You're
Right.
working your way through, so you have to do something like that. But I don't want to say they reverted to that traditional type of thing because
And that works for some games.
it does. And one thing I wrote down here is that this upgrade system, that was the building blocks for Hades 100%.
Yeah.
The way Hades, you can get these unique combos as you progress, 100%. The roots are right here in Transistor.
It's almost
And
like
I love it.
It's almost like they took the gameplay of Bastion, made it 100 times better, and then said, "Hey, the positive feedback that we got on Transistor, we got to implement in Hades because that is going to be a killer game," and that's exactly what they did.
Totally.
But it kind of took like the dark aspect of Pyre. It's like Hades is this result of all three of their previous games coming together. I do find it funny that you mentioned Horizon Zero Dawn because Horizon was another game for a while that I flirted with where I was like, I just can't get into it. I don't like Aloy, And I think those incremental things, I find myself saying like, no, I'm not going to do that. I don't care about these different weaves. I'm literally going to go and use the equipment I have until literally I have to upgrade my bow, or I have to do something, extravagant to my bow. That's exactly what I did.
Ryan.
That's exactly what I did.
You heard our did you hear our review of Horizon Zero
I did,
Dawn?
and
don't know if
that's
you
what
did.
made me want to call you the reasonable one, because I was like, yeah, finally someone who actually played Horizon Zero Dawn correctly.
Yeah, I used the same bow the entire game.
Correctly, the way the developers did not plan on you playing.
Yeah.
Because to
Well-
your credit, I mean, their developers didn't create enough opportunities where I felt like I needed to upgrade.
Well, and it did do that. Yeah, it did do that thing for me. I do really bad. I cut people off, and I'm sorry. I'm not
No,
Jacob
do it.
Busch.
That's welcome
Do
to
it.
Busch League Gaming.
Yeah.
Welcome
Do
to
it.
Busch League Gaming.
We all cut each
We
other.
talk over each other.
Yeah,
I don't
whenever-
like Jacob talking, so
Just keep talking over Gabe. He's
When-
going to keep trying to get in. We just hop
What-
right in over him.
this is the Busch League Gaming podcast.
Welcome to
now.
Busch League
Welcome
Gaming,
to
your
Busch League
source for
Gaming.
ordinary opinions from ordinary gamers.
We're talking about Transistor.
No,
Go ahead, Gabe.
Thank you. No,
But anyways, Ryan.
love it.
All right, go ahead. Sorry.
Whenever I would get a new weave or
Did you hear that
something,
dog bark?
oh my god.
So
God.
sorry.
Whenever
Okay, I'm
That
done.
was the
That's
last one.
Horizon, whenever I would get a new weave, I would check it out and be like, if it's not, gonna accommodate my play style, then no, I'm not gonna do anything because I don't want to. The only time I ever made adjustments to my bow was whenever something would literally, it's like, oh, this'll dismantle like a piece of the armor, right? That's the only time I ever changed anything, because that will do the job for any monster, literally. So
Yeah,
I found myself
100%.
whenever I was going for the platinum, I think I might have upgraded my bow twice. Whenever I was trying to get the plat.
I love that.
That's it. That's all you need. But Transistor is one of those things where I found a combination towards the end of my first run where I was like, this can kill anything with 2 hits. So I'm just going to use this. But I found myself it's so interesting the way they make you do it, because if you make these really god tier, combinations, you might only get 2. You probably will only get 2 combinations. So the risk versus reward loop is awesome. That being said, whenever you finish something, maybe you put something together and you thought, oh, this is going to be rad. Like, this is going to be legit. And then you take it into battle and it's like, wow, this is horrible. This was not the right decision. Like, I mixed my dog with like the love, like the turn friendly thing. So my dog was making everybody friendly. And guess what? When you make them friendly, you can't attack them. So literally I was just stuck there for however long my dog was alive. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So there's subtlety, all these changes, but they took the time to develop all of these different combinations. That's the thing that's impressive about the whole combat part of this game. Go ahead.
So, but you didn't like it though, right? So you're praising it right now,
so,
but it sounded like from the top you didn't like it.
From the beginning of the game, I'm like, this is irritating. I don't hate it, but I don't love it. So once I finally started to kind of figure it out, and again, this is coming from someone who probably has tried to pick up this game over a dozen times, super fascinated by the world, super fascinated by the relationship between Red and, the man.
The sword.
The man inside the transistor, yeah. And kind of realizing, like, what they're trying to say with that relationship, which we'll get to in a little bit. Yeah, super. Yeah, and it is imagery. I can't tell if you're making fun of me or if you're being
making fun of the kid.
Being wise ass or what. No, I'm just kidding.
Definitely that one. Yeah, no, the sword. It was the comment about the sword where it's like there's a relationship here, right?
There is,
but there's a sword. It's just a sword.
Yeah, she's
talking to a sword. So like it's like this weird. I don't know. Like I was invested by the end of it, but as I'm progressing through the story, I'm like, she's just talking to a sword right now.
Well,
so like you don't understand it either. At least I didn't understand what was going on.
Yeah. Well,
for a while.
I mean, whenever you walk up to the dead body for the first time and you see the sword embedded there, come on. You should be surmising like, oh, this is evidently someone who's important. But I do have to admit, I never noticed the dead body the first time I played this game. I never noticed that the sword was embedded in someone who was dead, and that's what was supposed to be happening was like, and I do appreciate Supergiant because in two of their games now, what's happening? What's wrong?
I didn't realize. So no, yeah, that makes sense because based off the end, for most of the game, I didn't realize that dead body at the beginning
was the guy in the sword.
I thought
that's like the whole plot.
I thought the sword was just sentient.
Which leads me to my other argument. That's why the gameplay was the best part about this game.
You didn't like the plot.
The world wasn't like... The world was not compelling to me. I love the art. Whoever did that art did an incredible job. It's a beautiful game. The landscapes are really cool, but... I don't know. I know they were trying to make a short game, but it was not one that I cared about. The main plot points were not that interesting to me. There were a few funny comments by the sword when he's talking.
Yeah. And
that's about it. Other than that, I feel like I honestly would have rather there's just been music the whole game. Wow. And like no explanation.
I like the story more than that.
I do too. To me, the plot, the world, everything else made me want to finish this game, and we'll get to kind of the bigger implications or our interpretations of what those implications could be, because there's a metaphor for what's happening to the world. Like there's something deep there, and to me, it hit me like a ton of bricks when I finished this. And we'll get to it. We're still on combat. I want to take a second to talk about how whenever you're trying to make your decision, Ashley Barrett, whatever song is playing, Ashley Barrett transitions to humming that tune. Like she's in her own head. She's trying to figure out what she wants to do. Red is making that decision of what she wants to do. And, the sword might, the transistor might make a comment about something happened. Like, for instance, like if I was to use Breach like 5 times in a row, and even if something, like if an enemy pissed me off enough, I would use Breach until, like, if it was the last enemy, I would go completely out. Like, use all my possible things. It's like, you have been freaking ruining my experience here. So even whenever it would say overkill, and she's all, ha, 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 and, like, the transistor would be like, he's like, God, Red, like, take it easier or whatever he would say. To me, I was like, yeah, I'm crazy. I'm a redhead. You know what I mean? But there were so many little details that were transitioned to Transistor from Bastion, because anytime, and they really played into Logan Cunningham, his voiceover, kind of a similar thing there, where in Bastion, you do something small that could trigger that audio, it would happen. Same thing in Transistor. If something happened to where an enemy was giving you a hard time, he's constantly narrating what's going to be happening, right? Or he's narrating something that seems significant. And I like that they kept that detail a lot, and that it was the same actor that I had already kind of grown accustomed to hearing before. I wanted to read the definition. Do you guys even know what a transistor is?
Engineer?
Like electronically?
Yeah.
It's just like for converting energy, right?
Yeah, so a transistor is a semiconductor device used to amplify or switch electronic signals and electrical power. Transistors are one of the basic building blocks of modern electronics. It is composed of semiconductor material, usually with at least 3 terminals for connection to an external circuit. So they literally took that idea and made it palatable with the sword, to where, like, if you actually looked up the definition of a transistor, you could kind of make sense of it. And that was one detail that I personally appreciated. I was like, oh, wow, like they actually took that into account.
Cool. I haven't thought about that enough.
I bet
so many
you, of the
details
1 million people who bought this game in 2014 to 2015, I bet you 0.0001% of the people know that, though.
Yeah, well, I mean, come on. Like, for me, you have a name. You have a name, Transistor. Like, for me, I thought it was like, well, aren't transistors radios? Which are they? There was a transistor radio. Like, that's a thing. So, but I never really understood what a transistor even was. So, to kind of see that,
is there symbolism to the name Bastion?
I don't know. That's a good question.
I'm dead serious right now.
There might be. I mean, a bastion is a place of refuge. So.
Yeah, I'm just like, you're saying all this stuff, and I'm like, Hades.
But what does Hades mean?
Well, it's about the.
It's about the underworld, Ryan.
He got me. Got me. What's a pyre?
Did you guys?
I can't wait to see what a pyre is.
Did you guys take time to actually try and play in real time? Did you try and do that ever? Because you
what do you
can
mean? Without like pausing the game.
Yeah.
Oh, all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, you have to let
I
recharge,
only
right?
paused like when I had to.
No. Yeah. No. Did you actually attack?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you did.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Is this weird?
Gotcha. Well, no. I just I must have had my setup really weird, because every time I tried to do that, I would usually die.
Oh no. I would only use it. I used it sparingly when I needed it.
I every encounter, I would probably use it like 2 to 3 times.
Same.
Until I finish that encounter, but most of that time it's unfrozen and I'm fighting like crazy.
Are you serious?
So were you just dodging and like running away the whole time?
I
the
played
whole time.
it like I essentially played it. Okay, that's interesting because I played it like you played Bastion. The pause aspect was cool. It was a great aspect, I guess. I don't know. I mean, like, it wasn't the main form of combat for me,
dude.
And it sounds like it was for you.
That's literally
like it.
Maybe that's why for so long. Because I would be like, oh man, I have this thing set up weird, and I think that makes a lot of sense. But in a way, that kind of speaks to the level of like creativity and design, in that you guys were able to play a completely different way than I played, and still were able to not only finish the game, but you were able to like have an enjoyable time with it. Whereas for me, I was tactical all the way, which would make sense. The developers, they have a Command and Conquer heritage, so it would make sense for them. Yeah. So the developers from Supergiant, the lead.
I did not know this.
Yeah. So the designers, Amir Rao and Greg Kasabin, they worked on the Command and Conquer series.
Interesting.
So they came from that world first.
Which that's an RTS, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Which
I'm more of an Age of Empires kind of guy.
Yeah. Nerd. No, I'm just kidding.
The worst.
And then maybe play some
game.
Civilization, and then I can dust off my pocket protector.
Yeah, look at you go, nerd. No.
Wow.
I think the combat in this game, objectively, I think is good. It's just not for me. Like, I think a lot of people would probably approach this game and probably really enjoy that. How do you guys feel about that?
It's polarizing.
I feel like you saw this change. Okay, maybe I'm reading too much into this, Gabe.
Read it.
I think because you love Bastion so much, you saw this transition into Transistor, and you saw a new feature in the combat that you thought was the core of combat because you had this experience with Bastion that didn't have that.
Yeah.
So you were like, oh, this must be how you play. I didn't play that much Bastion. So I went in playing like you played Bastion, and it was just this little feature I would activate only every once in a while. And so that's what forced me to use a lot of the different weapons. And I wanted to make this comment because you were saying like you found this combination. I would love to hear what your combination was that was just like you could spam the crap out of it. Because I found that if I made a really top-heavy loadout, like if one function was really, really supported with like the best other functions, when you die, you lose that function, and you can't use any of those three. So it forced you to not create this uber loadout at the risk of losing all of those functions at once. And so what I would do, because I was doing more real-time combat, was I had to I know this is incredible combat, or this is an incredible combination, but I have to mix in some other aspects because I can't afford to lose all three of these at once. And it made this really cool experience. I felt that was super challenging. Really pissed me off a lot of the time. This is a super frustrating game sometimes because I hated that you could lose functions. Yeah. But that was kind of the magic of what I think they were going for.
Yeah.
I second that. I would say the combat here is deep and it can be polarizing because I do think that some people will get into this and be like, not for me.
If you found a combo where you could spam, I wouldn't have enjoyed this game at all because, like I said, the combat was the best part, and I didn't really enjoy the story aspects.
Yeah, it wasn't a thing of you can spam it. It's a thing of you can use this twice, and it does massive damage, and you better have a game plan of how you're going to stay away. So I used the explosion. It was like a big explosion where she swipes her sword up. She's like with her sword up. So it was the explosion with the multiplier, so it would branch off with the void effect. So doing those three together would take 500 or 600 damage.
That's it's load with bounce.
No, load with, it was the one that had the three
little spark.
Yeah. Three, yeah. So load, spark, and then void, I think it was what it was called.
Okay.
Interesting. I was close to that. I used spark with load and crash. That was my go-to.
That's exactly what I used. Was it? And I loved it.
Yeah, because it throws out, and then it's a stunning explosive effect. It also slows them down. But it's funny, these combos, the combat is deep here. It really is.
It is.
And some of the deepest I've ever experienced.
When I was referencing the game that I just played that has similar combat mechanics, it's Lost in Random. And my big critique of the game is that it wasn't deep enough, where I feel like Transistor was deep enough.
Yeah.
So I think if you're going to do this odd combat style, this unique combat style, you have to really commit to it and really go deep because it needs to have that end game where it feels satisfactory. Yeah. That's the big thing with Transistor is that by the end of the game, I was like, yes, this is my build, and I know exactly what I need to do with this one and this one, these different functions. I know when to play them. So I don't know. I loved the gameplay. With all that said, again, we're working up towards Hades here. I do like that they transitioned back to the Bastion lead, and they took these upgrade elements and put them in a Bastion forward combat system.
It's almost like they revamped Bastion and then took all the best things that this game could do and just dropped it on top of Hades, but also made that better. Yeah, we'll get to that one eventually.
Can't wait.
I can't wait to talk about Pyre too. That's gonna be a fun one.
Played.
That's gonna be a fun one.
Hades yet, but I'm excited too.
Game Pass with your new Xbox.
I had no interest until actually you brought up the Supergiant thing, and I played Transistor. Honestly, I had no interest in Hades, and now I can't wait to play it.
Ryan doesn't play isometric games. He does not like this type of game.
They drive me insane. I don't know what it is, but
I've struggled in the past too, but I do have to say anything Supergiant, I've owned all the Supergiant games on multiple platforms, and like I said, I'm slowly working my way through them. But I believe in the studio that much. So let's transition a little bit here. We've talked the gameplay to death, and good God, has it already almost been an hour? I'm sorry, gentlemen, but it's gonna be a while before this one's done. So
you're killing me, Smalls.
So let's transition to general world building as well as characters and just the general lore of the world. I'll throw it to you guys first because I understand for Ryan this is kind of a weaker point. This aspect of the game. So you guys do your thing, and then I'll give mine at the end, and we'll try and kind of streamline this from here on out.
I mean, I feel like I've really said most of what I felt. The characters were uninteresting to me. They had a lot of opportunities, like little features you could find to read or like hear in additional dialogue. I found those pretty uninteresting up front, so I kind of stopped listening to them for the rest of the game. Probably the first several hours I tried to find those, and then after that I was just like, there's not really a character here that grabs me. The villains aren't that cool. I don't know. That was the characters were probably the weakest part. The story wasn't that compelling to me.
So let me ask you, and this I might be showing how dumb I am. When did you realize that the sword was taking on those people?
Right away.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I'm dumb. That's established. I did not realize that. Maybe it took me 2 or 3 captures or whatever it's called.
Because you didn't notice you can literally pause and there's a menu of each function in the character that it applies to in their backstory.
Yeah, but I didn't realize.
So I read a bunch of those, Gabe. I feel like I gave this game a good shot as far as the writing goes. Dialogue, the main dialogue was pretty good. The secondary stuff, although the writing might have been good, it was just so uninteresting. It wasn't. I didn't care what this guy's backstory was.
Is that a burden of the genre though, where it's it's not acted, it's just text you're reading with voice acting, but it's not you're not seeing character and facial emotion. You're not seeing the typical cues that you need for drama. I'm curious because you don't play this genre typically.
Well, but I do like to read. And so, Horizon Zero Dawn, for some reason this game keeps coming up. I read all additional content. I believed in that world. And so I read everything. And I thought the little journals and diaries they had in the world were awesome and really well fleshed out of what it would feel like to experience this. What bothered me about this is their world is ending and people are casually talking what are we going to do next? I don't really know, but so-and-so says this is what we should do. And it's this just very monotone voices that it's they're not they don't themselves believe that the world is ending. You know what I mean? That's what really bothered me.
Yeah. Well, no, I don't have. Go ahead, Gabe.
No, please, you go first, then I'll say what I have to say.
I don't have as much critique for the story. I don't have much praise either, though. It was fine. Again, the gameplay was my favorite part about this game. The emotional love connection, whatever it is, it was fine. We can, I'm sure, spoiler, we'll discuss it, but the end, it was okay, that's impactful, but still, the disembodiment oddly made me disconnected from all of the characters in the game, right? We're talking to swords. We're talking to text logs. We're never really seeing people other than the villains in this game. So that kind of disassociated from really empathy and sort of things like that because it felt like I was talking to computers now. They're in this transistor, whatever it is. I still don't understand fully what it is, but they're disembodied and they're now just.
They're semiconductors?
So based off Gabe's definition, they are going in my next iPhone, basically.
Yeah.
So I don't know, Gabe. I have nothing really. I'm pretty neutral on the story. Ending was cool. I love a twisty ending, but whatever.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of where I differ for you guys, because I very much kind of like gameplay's great. Like if I'm gonna play Call of Duty or a gameplay heavy game, right? I'm in it for the experience overall, so I might be more attuned to certain things. I don't know if that's a thing, but for me, I saw this as a message of like technology is taking over the world. And at the end of the day, the only thing that really matters, at least to Red, is being with the person she loves. And she only knows of one way to be with the person that she loves. And because it's like, at the end of the game, heavy spoilers for Transistor. At the end of the game, Red has the opportunity to completely rebuild the world as she sees fit. Right? And she can have the guy in the sword with her, right? She can have him with her along, because he's asking, he's like, what are you going to do first? Are you going to rebuild this first? So then, with Supergiant Games, there's always kind of something going on that they're not letting on. Like nothing isn't quite as it seems, until you get to the end. And, with Bastion, it was, hey, everything you just did, you can either erase it and make it cyclical, or you can try and figure it out, right? And in this game, we're kind of presented with the same type of ultimatum. It's like, hey, where we don't get a choice. It's like, hey, no, I don't want to be a part of this world. Like, I don't want to be a part of this world unless it's with you. And really with you. So, to me, like, that's a pretty strong message, Mm-hmm. Just as someone, I'm going on 5 years of being married, obviously, and I was shocked at the end of this game. I was completely blown away by the narrative decision to effectively kill Red at the end of this game. And even as she's doing it, like the guy in the Transistor, he's like, "Don't you do it?" He's like telling her not to, because she is literally what is going to make a difference. But for her, it's like, no, I don't want to do anything unless it's really with you.
Is it, and listening to you, was this an extremely selfish decision?
Yeah. It's kind of like,
right?
Have you guys played The Last of Us?
No.
Oh,
someday.
My God.
No spoilers, bro. We've been playing it on playing.
Too many zombies.
Yeah,
they're not
too scary.
They're not zombies. They're clickers.
Too many fungal infected.
What is that game? Grounded?
Here's the thing. Here's the thing. Is it selfish? Yes. And that is what makes that decision and makes it so inherently human, is that is the human decision to make. That is not the rational, computer-generated decision to make. That is the human thing. Humans are selfish. Hot take. And if you think we're not,
no, I agree with you.
We are. Because if it comes down to your loved ones being at risk versus my loved ones being at risk, someone's going to die. That's what's happening.
True. Yeah. No, yeah. It's so, like I said, the ending is where the story came together for me, where I was like, I like the sacrificial love story. I do like that. It's everything in between didn't matter much.
That's
right?
exactly what I was about to say. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry. Yeah. We could have went straight to the end, and I would have been just as happy if we didn't have any of the filler in the between.
And I do think there were opportunities, right? The additional login trees and stuff like that. I even popped a trophy for being able to access 10 or 15 of them or something like that. I didn't care because I got all the narrative I needed from the optional walkways. It's like, hey, you want to go check that place out? I think at one point she had to go to the bathroom, and she's flirting with the sword, right? Which it kind of adds a more mature element to the game a little bit, in that he's watching her, and she's kind of putting it out there, but he can't do anything, right? And that was kind of, I don't know, that was oddly romantic in a way, but still the sword could be off-putting. Once you realize that he is trapped inside there and he can't do anything, it opens up a lot of opportunities for storytelling, in my opinion. Did I dip there for a second?
You did, but I think
Okay,
captured
cool.
everything you said.
Yeah.
I think just the whole sword thing, it just literally the physicality of these two separate entities is what threw me off.
Yeah.
Whether it was written well or not, me being too stupid to understand that there's a real guy in there that she had a relationship with.
I do appreciate Gabe, I do appreciate your points because I think you're right. I think overall the ideal was there of like a good story. But I do think we talk about this all the time. The worst thing a game can do is overstay its welcome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And while gameplay wise, at the end of this, 6, 7, 8, 12 hours, I didn't feel like it overstayed its welcome. But by the story, I was prepared to never hear another character talk. And so at the end, I agree. The end was great. Like the way she sat next to his body. And, I recognized that area because I knew that was the guy in the sword, which I felt like was kind of on the nose, but apparently not.
I was watching The Bachelorette while I started playing.
There you go. But that ending I thought was cool. Like that was a really cool way to wrap things up. But like I said, it just overstayed its welcome. I was like, I couldn't tell you a single name of any villain. I forgot Red's name until you brought it up. Honestly, it's like if I can't even tell you the name of the faces, like that's a problem in the writing, I feel like.
Well, and I think...
hold on. Can we... Oh, sorry.
No.
Quick thing on the voices.
And I can name all the functions.
Before we
get
to the voices, can we take... you guys want to take just like a brief break, and then we'll come back to the voices?
Let's do it.
Okay, really fast. So...
Ready.
The voices. I want Jacob to continue. Does everyone feel better? I feel a lot better.
I feel great.
I was fine.
Refreshed.
Yeah.
So the voices. There is one voice in this game, and... I'm sorry. There's a voice actor who does a lot of this stuff for Supergiant Games. What's his name?
Logan Cunningham.
Yeah.
Was that the guy that did the sword?
Was that the guy that did the sword?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Did he do Royce
Great
by
voice.
chance?
Rux.
Was it Royce?
Rux?
No, Royce. The villain
Rux.
in this game. No, the villain in this game. That was from the last game.
Oh,
Royce.
Royce, at the very end?
The bad guy. Yeah, the main big bad guy.
I doubt it.
Nonetheless, this voice actor was definitely going for a Heath Ledger Joker voice. Like I've never been taken out of a game more.
Oh my gosh.
You're
so right.
When I'm listening and it's just the Joker from The Dark Knight. Like it is Heath Ledger's Joker. And it's rare that I can compare a voice actor to a reference point like that. But if you go back and play this game, think about that, it completely will take you out. That's the voice actor.
I didn't get Heath Ledger. I more got the Mandarin from Iron Man 3. Like,
oh, yeah. Yeah, I could see that.
some call me a terrorist. I consider myself a teacher.
Wow. Big
That's
fan of
pretty
Iron
good,
Man
yeah.
2 here. Or Iron Man 2 or 3? Is that 3?
I mean,
I just picture-
I've seen it a few times,
I'm picturing Heath Ledger like licking his lip. He was always like, if you knew
Yes.
where I came from.
Yes. Yes. So, anyways, I don't have much about it. The voice acting, again, Supergiant Games, it's really good. I always am amazed by how many different voices one guy can do.
The
But
voices were good, and the singing was great.
Ashley Barrett, right?
Yep.
Ashley Barrett.
Yeah.
She did a phenomenal job. That was a cool... I feel like they splurged on that, which was weird, but I ended up really appreciating.
Well,
Splurged in what way?
I don't know, like... It just felt like really well done, like more than it needed to be.
Yeah.
And so it was like, yeah, that was one area where I just really enjoyed it.
Red's a famous singer in that world.
Right.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So
They nailed that.
it was interesting how they made that kind of one of the anchors of this game. I found the spine boss to be very underwhelming. All of the bosses were very underwhelming and non-memorable. Does that necessarily play into a big part for me? No, because the precedent has been set with Bastion in that I didn't remember much of the bosses. I remember the bowl, and that's about it from Bastion. So, to me, it doesn't really hold a lot of sway just in terms of boss battles. But it also takes points away from me because the lore isn't nearly as cool. And it's frustrating. It's frustrating to try and understand what's going on. So they don't really hit you over the head with it until you're about 75% done with the game, and that like technology's taking over taking over this world, and is literally like hitting the backspace button on things that should be there that aren't. And that we've already kind of talked about the potential deeper meaning there, but
it kind of went over my head. By the way, you said you were going to enlighten me on that, and I didn't. Did you connect those dots during it? Because I didn't. The technology's taking over. It felt like a general story of technology getting out of control. Like I said,
it definitely felt like the world was ending. Like that was the story they were building up, but it was too casual, like too casually written about and acted about. Like there was no urgency that I felt from any of the characters. Yeah, the swords was never urgent. I felt like either. It was very like this is just the reality of the situation.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing is he's not concerned about the world. He's concerned about Red. He's concerned. That's what I'm saying is, and I do have to say, like, I get where you guys are coming from, and this makes a lot of sense. Maybe it's because I've spent so much time with this game over the years, the first half of it at least, played up to at least 50% of this game multiple times. And he is only concerned with keeping Red alive. That is the only thing that matters to him. Sure. And at the end of the day, it turns out she's just as in love with him as he was in love with her. So kind of that human relationship, on the polar opposite of the non-human, and now to me it speaks even more because I grew up with social media, right? So for me, that type of stuff, I'm very sensitive to that type of storytelling, and that it's all fake, it blows my mind that guys a few years younger than me, 4 or 5 years younger than me, can't go up to a girl and ask her for her phone number. He has to message her on Instagram or hit her up on Twitter or do whatever. It's like I was telling a friend of mine, I'm like, dude, if you like a girl, take her out to lunch. Ask her if she wants to go out to lunch. If she's weird about it, she's not the one. I promise. Like,
yeah, man, she doesn't want the sword.
We're old.
Yeah,
the sword. So like as you're explaining this to me again, I'm a little slow here. It does make sense. This technology thing. This point does make sense to me. I don't know what it is about this genre or medium that maybe it's because I'm playing on the Switch. It's a little less, I'm a little less maybe engaged or fully immersed in it, but I don't actually look for a deeper meaning with some of these stories. That's why the ending hit me so like, whoa, they went there. So I don't know. Again, games are cool. I appreciate that there's a vision here and that it was lost on me for some reason. It hit you, but now that I see it retrospective, I appreciate the game more. That's kind of, I have a more appreciation after it being told to me even.
But at the same time, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm okay being explained to. Like I understand sometimes I miss things in games. I may drift off and watch, what The Bachelor kissed this new guy, and I'm like super into that.
The Bachelor kissed the new guy.
Hey, they're getting more progressive. You'll see. We'll see.
Yeah. Interesting.
I get it, and it is one of those things. Like, there's no way I could play this game on Switch and try and get the same impact. I think. Did you play with headphones? Did you play with sound?
I played with Switch.
Yeah.
Without headphones.
So that's something.
But with sound on.
That's something I'm learning with Supergiant, where you should not play these games without sound.
Yeah.
And that is one of those things. Like, whenever I'm playing my Switch, like if I'm going to play Breath of the Wild or something like Fire Emblem or whatever, I have to listen to it. But most of the time, volume is down on that bad boy and I'm watching TV. So,
yeah.
Whereas Transistor, I think, really is meant to be, it can be enjoyed kind of as more of a casual experience, but I think it's meant to be played like, like you would play Hades, where you're trying to really, you're hyper-focused on what's happening. And I think that's something, like, the writing isn't lost. I think it's just, the game serves multiple purposes. And I think that's something they talked about in the documentary, too, where, people making the transition from Bastion and it being completely different. Super interesting. So
I would argue, and you might be right. I honestly tried to listen to as much as I could. And maybe honestly, maybe that's where Hades went right, because I care about those gods. We know their stories, a lot of them, or they are characters that like are already fleshed out, and they have these like deep histories. And so I haven't played Hades yet, but I love Greek mythology and just history in general. I'm like super excited to see what they do with a lot of those characters. Those are characters I care about. That's probably a story that I could believe in and like want to see the end of. If Transistor had like just ended, I would have felt good because the gameplay was that great, in my opinion. They ended up having a good ending, but everything in between, like we said, was just lost on me.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we've touched on the main points for this game. The main things I personally wanted to talk about, that being kind of the world and the story and things that have happened, as well as the gameplay. Is there anything that you guys would like to particularly... And obviously we talked about the music. Like, the music goes without saying. It's incredible. Like,
it's great.
It's so good. The sound design, it's
a beautiful game.
Every time you listen to a sound that's made in these Supergiant Games, Darren Korb has his hands in the music, everything. He's the director for sound in general. So that's always kind of cool, because it's like, you know, I talked to the guy, like I interviewed him, and it's like now you feel different about whenever you experience something in the game. It's like, oh, like Darren Korb designed that. That's rad. You know, it's different. But I think it would have only gotten to that point for me because I genuinely was a fan of the first game in such a big way. So what points are there that you guys want to talk about that we didn't quite get? Is there anything that I missed?
Oh, I feel like you nailed all of them.
The only one thing I have to say, and it's present in Bastion in this game, default movement speed is too slow.
Infuriating.
And I ended up doing that little twirly sword thing just because I was bored and I was sick of walking so much. But man, Supergiant really leans into very slow-paced. And they fix it in Hades, in my opinion. You can sit here and do this dodge, and your dodge gets better, and you can just sit here and dodge through everything. But that's the only thing I wanted to bring up, is that the pacing, as far as movement speed between Bastion and Transistor, was consistently slow.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and the art is beautiful. I think this is a beautiful game.
It is.
Yep.
It is. I think it... I don't want to say it's Bastion... Or, I'm sorry. I don't want to say it's Supergiant's best-looking game, because I think that's probably going to end up being Pyre.
Oh. I'm excited. Did you buy it yet?
Not yet.
I bought it.
Oh, maybe I did. Oh, I did buy it. Yeah.
Super rad so far. And I've not touched Pyre. I remember kind of a similar thing. Pyre came out in like 2016. I was dating my wife at the time. And I was like, I just remember seeing that same thing from the creators of Bastion and Transistor. You don't put two titles like that unless they've been successful. So kind of that same thing of like, oh, this looks rad. What is this? You know, and it being completely different. And Logan Cunningham describes Pyre as being a like Quidditch meets NBA Jam.
I saw the trailer for it and I was like, what is this game? It looks like a sports game.
Yeah.
I was not expecting that at all.
Yeah, so it's like you're performing like a ritual of some sort in Pyre. And yeah, we'll just have to wait. We'll have to wait to get to it. That'll whet your appetites, ladies and gentlemen, for next time.
Tune in.
Yeah,
Can't
tune
wait.
in. Make sure you listen in
Hey,
6
quick
months.
thing, Gabe. Do you want to hear? So Nick also played this. I got a text from him, brief text of his take on it. You want to hear it?
Absolutely.
Nick says, I loved the art. I loved the theme. I loved the story. I loved the music. I loved the main character. I really did not enjoy the gameplay mechanics. That's it. That's all he sent.
Okay.
So just another example that the gameplay is polarizing.
It
It's
is.
pretty
Yeah, it is.
niche.
I had
sure.
to learn to love it. I'm sorry. I had to learn to be okay with it. I didn't love it. I still don't love it. I'll probably never play this game again.
That's fair. Yeah,
Same.
I probably won't either.
Yeah. But I'm glad the time I did spend with it over the past 6, 7, 8 years at this point now. It was a really cool moment whenever I finished the game and I was like, oh my God, how have I gone this long without being spoiled on what happens? Like as a person who's very much kept in touch with everything Supergiant. I've always rooted for them when they've had something come out. And it's like, wow, that's crazy. So, but yeah, I think that that about wraps up our review, gentlemen. As you know, scoring for Wannabe Critic Productions is, I believe, a little bit different than Busch League, but we have retracted our decimal rule. So if you want to give this game a decimal score, you may.
Well, you retracted that.
Well,
Wow,
now I have to give it a decimal.
Hold on, there was a high horse here, and you were riding it pretty strong about this decimal thing.
Well,
when did this get retracted?
So I will not give it a decimal score, but my fellow co-hosts, I got sick of them complaining about it. Is truly
Nice.
the truth of the matter. So for me, I will never give a game a decimal score ever.
I know exactly what I'm giving this game.
I do too.
That's fine.
I'm so ready for it.
I hate you.
You want to say it on? You want to say it on 1, 2, 3? 1, 2, 3.
7.32456.
7.5.
There was no limit on the decimal. I just want to point that out.
That's true. He didn't put it on there.
Yeah.
What is your score?
I was about 7.5.
Nice.
Yeah.
So here, Gabe, real quick. I thought about this after listening back to the Bastion episode. We gave Bastion a 7. In the end, I enjoyed this more than Bastion. I did. I enjoyed this more than Bastion.
Wow.
I think reminding the viewer or listener here, the Bastion story didn't connect with me, right? I didn't have a personal association with it. So I'm just comparing mainly on gameplay mechanics, and I like the gameplay a little bit more, where this falls on a 7.5 for me.
Ryan, you have anything to add to that?
No, I feel like I've spoken my piece. Great gameplay. And if this is a 7.5, I can't wait to see what Hades is. Or Pyre.
You already know my score. That's a 10. Baby.
You're a Hades shill, and I'll hear nothing of it.
I love
He
Hades.
is. He can't go back to any other game.
Guess
after
what,
Hades.
though? I'm really nervous about this. Gabe's going to be like, Hades isn't that good. He's going to come in with this hot take.
Me and Gabe are going to experience the games in the order they came out, and you'll never get to do that.
Oh,
You're right.
shots fired.
You're right.
And I can
You're
tell
right.
you 100%, even from what I've played so far, even I can recognize in the 3 or 4 or 5 hours I've played so far, Hades is not overrated.
Oh, nice. Okay, good.
It's not.
Okay, thank you for not being
And
hot takes
it-
on there.
It very rarely, like you think about a game like The Last of Us and Last of Us Part 2, which I love those games, but not for the reason that not for the reasons that they're like, oh, this is fun to like go through this. No, that's not what it is. Hades is genuinely fun to play.
It's so fun.
And it still has like a personality, and that's amazing. And the fact that it's like beating Last of Us Part 2 in some areas is like huge. But I do think it's infinitely more fun to try and escape the underworld, you know? So
Then what's your score of Transistor?
So
Ooh.
for Transistor, all things considered, even though I did not like the gameplay, I go into a game for an experience. So if I'm there to experience sadness, or I'm supposed to try and, feel... I try and feel whatever the creator of the game was trying to, go for, with whatever the developer was trying to perpetuate. That's what I'm trying to put myself in the realm of, With God of War, it was right on the nose. It was like, oh, I get this, And I feel like, I don't know, I connected with this game a lot, kind of growing up in a digital age. And I think the metaphor is pretty awesome across the board. The gameplay is just not my favorite, but I don't hate it. I came around to it towards the end. But it's also one of those things where I think objectively it is replayable, and I think for the audience that will find it enjoyable, it's going to be like up there for them. I do think this is kind of for like the Fallout players, like the old school Fallout players, of yesteryear. I do think this is, in some cases, I think it's for people who love strategy games and tactics games, because it can be played like that. In its entirety, it can be played like that. So there's so many things that come into play for me in my score, and there's a little bit of the Wannabe in there, of wanting to try and take this game seriously and, try and do whatever. And there's a little bit of personal bias. But I think overall, I'm going to give this game an 8. I'm going to give it the same score I gave Bastion. Simply because...
You wanted to give it a 7.5, didn't you?
No, I didn't. I think it deserves an 8. There are people... I mean, if you look at Steam, go look at what Steam says about this game. 95% of people love this game. On Metacritic, the user score is an 8.3, so that's usually what I try and dictate more. If I ever give something a score and it's like, well, what does the user say about it? That's usually what I go look at first. And I have to agree. I think this is a very good game. And it's just shy of being great because it lacks lore. And it's a pain to try and fish out that lore. Mm-hmm. But you don't see games like this made. You don't see the level of detail. This is a game, so you have to take in the design to account. It doesn't matter if you don't like it. What matters is the design quality. And if you take the time to put together all these different combinations and see what they can do, somebody had to program all of that. Somebody had to draw all of that. A team spent countless hours trying to make this unique every time you come back to it. And to me, I can't give this game anything less than an 8 for me.
Supergiant is somewhat unmatched when it comes to polish. And when I say polish, it's like the details of the music, the voice acting, the actual art, the gameplay. Like, they really round out their games really well. And just to be clear, when Ryan and I say 7.5 is our second highest tier on our Busch League Gaming scale. It's considered impressive, right? So there's 5 tiers. Only a 10 out of 10 gets the top one, right? That's a legendary status. And then you get impressive. So this actually falls into our impressive category. And again, you're seeing this progression of Supergiant, like this clear improvement that they did Bastion, they went to this. And again, I've seen the end point of Hades, but it's just cool to see how developers grow. And it's clear again with Supergiant.
Yeah, no, I think that's beautiful. That's well said. And I think this is a perfect example. This is why I love Supergiant so much, in that they are not going to do the popular thing that is going to make them popular. They're going to do the thing that actually they really want to do. And I think as a content creator and a podcaster, someone with a very small podcast network who's very much in the camp of, I'm going to do what I want, and I don't care if it's the wrong decision. I have to do this because it makes me feel good. There is no better expression of art. Like, that is literally what art is like saying, hey, I'm going to do this thing because I genuinely want to. And talking to, Darren Korb, that's very much the vibe of the studio. Like, they don't approach games the same way that Call of Duty, or the same way that, even something like Horizon Zero Dawn, they don't approach games that way. It is, what is this idea that we're super duper, fond of, or that we really believe in? And how can we make that come to life in a really unique way? And maybe it'll resonate with players. If you go back and watch that No Clip documentary, at no point did the Supergiant staff ever think that this is going to be a breakout hit. None of them ever thought that. Ever. Not one time. And when things kept rolling in, like all this positive PR and stuff kept rolling in for the game, it was this thing, they were blown away, because that's what happens. That's what the reaction should be. Whenever you make something, you're super passionate about it and people love it, you're like, really? You like this? That's what the reaction should be. That's what games should be. And that's why Supergiant is kind of like a cut above the rest and second to none in terms of polish, because they make games that they genuinely care about. So yeah, I'm super excited that we're able to wrap this discussion up. And do you guys have any final thoughts that you want to add?
I can't wait to see what Pyre's
you made me a believer, so I'm excited to keep playing these Supergiant games.
I cannot wait to get to Pyre, because it is so weird. Yeah, I hope we can get...
I'm nervous based off that description, actually. Like, this seems way far left.
It is. And what I've played so far, I'm like, it gives me the same feeling, not in terms of gameplay, but it gives me the same feeling as whenever I first played Bastion, in that I was like, what is this? Who is this studio doing this thing? And I'm genuinely excited to talk about it. So, yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah.
We're gonna finish Deathloop and then I'll start it.
Oh,
Yeah, we got a few in the log, but we'll get there.
it's so good.
I can't wait. Deathloop?
Yeah.
It's so good.
It's so
Whoa,
good.
Whoa. This isn't a Deathloop podcast.
It's so good.
Chill.
It is. It's
Talk
awesome.
about it.
Arcane's so freaking talented. Okay. Anyways,
Really good.
so gentlemen, next time, of course, we will be discussing Pyre. I'm super excited to do so. I'm always sad when our podcasting shenanigans have to end. But it's only going to be, it feels like yesterday since we did it. It feels like it was yesterday whenever we did Bastion, and it's not going to be that much longer until we do Pyre, hopefully. So,
Yeah.
And hopefully Necrophilia will be able to be there with us.
Necrophilia will be
He
back.
will. Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll make him.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, all right. Well, ladies
This is
and
Blast, Gabe.
yeah, no, it was. Thank you guys very much for coming on.
Yeah.
I really appreciate
Thanks for
it.
inviting us. This is awesome.
Yeah, and I'm
Great
super.
idea on Supergiant.
Yeah, I'm super excited to do the rest of these. I am kind of playing Pyre and Hades concurrently a little bit, because they're just vastly different. Like, you can play them side by side if you want to, whereas I couldn't really do that with Transistor, but Pyre is a completely different beast altogether. So, ladies and gentlemen, definitely be on the lookout for those 2 episodes coming out. God knows when, I don't know. If you're a patron, you'll get those, obviously, first. Of course, the early access tier, we have the tip jar idea, obviously, which is $1, but early access is $5 if you want access to everything, which I put out a blog post that kind of described what all that entails. You get 4 or 5 different podcasts from early access. So, super excited about that. And I'm super excited to continue our journey with Supergiant, gentlemen. So, definitely give your sign-offs. Where can people find you? Talk about Busch League. Do all that jazz.
BuschLeagueGaming.com. You can find us on YouTube. YouTube.com/74XC2. We still don't have a custom URL. We're getting there. Just search Busch League Gaming on YouTube or go to the website at Busch League GMNG for me, at Busch League Ryan for Ryan. And yeah, that's it.
There you have
Thanks
it.
for having us on.
Thanks for having us, Gabe.
Thank you, gentlemen. And definitely go. I have to say, Jacob said that like Punch Counterpunch is like a jump to the top of the list podcast for him.
Top.
Anytime BLG puts out a new show, that takes. I don't even listen to my industry the industry show that I like. Like, I listen to. I'm serious. Like I would never.
I paid him to say this.
No, I would never in a million years be disingenuous. It is that good. Like I don't know how you guys haven't been working in the games industry for years, because you don't find podcasts like that. So definitely go check out Busch League Gaming, ladies and gentlemen. You won't regret it. And as always, thank you for tuning in here as well. So, gentlemen, say goodbye.
All right, man. Appreciate it.
Goodbye.
I love you.
Well, once again, thank you so much for showing up today. I really, really appreciate it. Again, if this is your first time here, consider subscribing. I know that's the thing that all the YouTubers do. Everyone's asking to sub. The fact of the matter is that it doesn't cost you anything to subscribe, and who knows, you might even see a video every now and then that you actually like or may be interested in. Not only that, I do a bunch of stuff, so make sure you check all the information down in the description down below. We got podcasts, we got Let's Plays, we got all kinds of stuff for all kinds of fandoms. So make sure you check that out. I would seriously appreciate it, and I would love to see you around here more. I am Gabriel Fast. I will always be the Wannabe Critic.